I'm Carmen Alana Tibbetts. Today I'd like to take a departure from discussing art dolls and talk about a quilt that I recently finished in the studio. This is based on an antique quilt that I saw in a book called New York Beauties, Quilts from the Empire State. And as I was reading the book, I kept flipping back to the page that had the original image of this quilt. And there was just something about that schoolhouse that just caught my eye. It was a little bit odd, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I took the book, enlarged the image, and then I realized upon analysis that what it is that the structure of the actual building is just odd. So if you take a look at the front of the schoolhouse and then the side, you realize that this window is placed right at the intersection of those two walls. The other thing that's sort of visually odd about it is that the chimney, depending on how you look at it, is either set at the corner of the roof or in the middle. So it's a little bit of an optical illusion. You don't see these things in modern schoolhouse blocks, and I just loved it because it was unique, it was quirky, and I decided that I wanted to make a replica for myself. So with that enlarged image, I measured everything very carefully, and I determined that the block itself is based on a perfect 7x7 grid, except for two things: this corner and this corner. Everything else in this block is a square or a rectangle or a triangle that fits perfectly within that grid. So I couldn't figure out, based on the picture, how the original quilter had constructed this quilt. Modern quilts are made with a combination of strip piecing for the body of the building and then cutting out larger geometric shapes for the roof and then sewing those sections together to complete the block. Now, I don't have the option of cutting out large shapes because I make my quilts with scraps of clothing, in this case linen shirts and silk neckties, and so the pieces of cloth that I have available are very small. So I decided to go with that 7x7 grid and kind of enlarge it so it wouldn't be so bad. So the entire block is about 14 inches. And that means that I was able to cut out everything with a completed size of 2 inches on a side. So the strips are either 2 inches or the squares are 2 inches. And I cut everything out. I knew that I would have to applique these little corners because they're weird little shapes. I dreaded that applique so much that this project sat unfinished in a bin on my studio shelf for almost 2 years. And it's not a lot of applique. This little bit times 9. Not a lot. If you're familiar with my work, you know that I do a lot of handwork. So how can I hate applique so much? I don't know, but I do. And so it just sat there and it just kind of, it gnawed away at me. At the beginning of the year, I decided, okay, that's enough. This is ridiculous. Just finish it. So I took it out, started sewing, and lo and behold, it took less than 2 days to complete the entire quilt top. The backing is made with Oxford cloth shirts, and then the batting is an organic cotton bamboo combination, and it's quilted in parallel vertical lines with bright turquoise thread. And I do hand quilt all of my silk quilts. So it didn't take that long, and there are 2 lessons to learn from this project. At least there are 2 lessons that I learned. One, go ahead and draft your own pattern, and even if it seems like it's going to be kind of a wacky thing, a little bit crazy, you're not sure if it's going to work out, it'll be fine. It'll work out. It'll look beautiful in the end. And second, your psychological perception of the hurdle is always worse than the actuality of the hurdle. So if you have any unfinished projects, just get out there, power through it, get it done, and you'll realize that it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction to my antique replica of this quirky little schoolhouse quilt. It will be for sale on Etsy, so if you're interested, you can take a look and learn a little bit more about its dimensions, and I'll have some images of close-ups so you can see the fabrics and the quilting. So I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye.